Hi, in my last video on prehistoric agricultural fields in southern New Mexico, I kind of showed these, what I'm calling wave pattern fields, and I wanted to revisit these again. And if you look at this picture again, the pattern of the vegetation here just doesn't look natural. Should have arroyos that are entrenching and running down and basically kind of a tree branch shape. Instead, you get this wave pattern. So I think it's all been modified. If you notice here, there's one of these nice reservoirs that has a good bloom of algae in it, and I encourage people to go to Richard Fisher's site. The address here, he has information about these algae being used for fertilizer and about the Tarahumara still using these tanks for storing waste and making fertilizer. And I wanted to add that I still see no indication that these reservoirs and dams are anything but part of a prehistoric irrigation system. Before I move on to showing some more of these wave pattern fields, I wanted to show this entrenched arroyo to show what happens when water gets out of control and starts moving quickly. You can see the drainages around this still have that kind of wave pattern modification that keep the arroyos from entrenching like this one has. I'm going to show you a series of these fields all around Deming. First area I'm going to look at is right back where that first picture was, over by Cook's Peak to the east and to the southeast of Cook's Peak. The landscape is covered with these. As we zoom in, we'll see that. And as you can see, it's everywhere. This whole entire valley coming off of Cook's Peak has this pattern of fields. And you get to some of them, you can almost still see the rows going across the contour with the contour. And it's not just in the arroyo bottoms, but it's on the low ridges. Water's been diverted from the washes higher up and then run down the spine of some of these low ridges into these features. Next, I wanted to take a quick look here north of Deming, about halfway to Silver City. In this area, you'll see as we zoom in, there's more of this pattern of fields here. Pretty distinctive, quite a bit of it. And in that same area, there's one of these older round looking fields, and if you look to the south of it, again you get this kind of wave pattern, and it all looks to be associated together, about the same age. So next, let's take a quick look just right here outside of Deming to the northwest by this little hill. So we zoom in, we'll see that there's even more of this pattern of field. And if we go a little bit north of that, there's this drainage that comes out of the northwest part of Cook's Peak and joins with the Mimbres River Valley. And if we zoom in on that, you can see here that you start to see this wave pattern again, and you kind of can see rows, and as you zoom in even closer, you see for sure that there are fields here. Now let's zoom back out and go up this alluvial fan a little bit, and you can see here there's some of these dams along the contour of this hill. Some more diversion dams as you get farther up. As we zoom in, you can see again some of these rows that are still apparent. They show these agricultural fields. And go up a little more. Again, you can still see the rows of the fields here. And as you zoom out and keep going up the wash, you get more of this wave pattern. So I think, again, all this area is agricultural. If you zoom out, see this whole fan coming down off the Cook's Peak. And the last area I wanted to show you is over here just north of Deming and south of Fluorite Ridge. I showed some fields there before in a previous video. They're pretty distinctive. You can see a row pattern, but only recently I just discovered this older satellite photo that actually shows this really complex pattern of ditches here, what this field really looks like. And it's at the base, it's about 1.3 miles across, so there's almost a square mile of field in this area. But it's this area right close to the road to Hatch and the turnoff to Fluorite Ridge where I really started seeing some of these features that look to be this wave power pattern field in the process of being constructed. So we zoom in here in this area just off the road. There's all these basins that have been dug out in rows. You can see here them still holding water. Here's where they're dry. Again, holding water. You can see how they're constructed so that water flows from one to the next. And you'll see here they actually form some of this, a wave pattern. And water kind of flows there with the contour. It slowly goes from basin to basin. So if we zoom out, you can see that pattern here of diversion dams and basins that were being dug. And they come down the top of the ridge. That's a low ridge, but it's a ridge. Here's some more right along the road to Fluorite Ridge. Again, you can kind of see how they would end up forming that wave pattern as they fill in and vegetation grows behind them. All the way up to this other more distinct field that I showed earlier. And then I wanted to show this reservoir under construction. It looks like it was never finished. There's a V-shaped dam and a little horseshoe reservoir right next to it. You can see some round holes that were dug down into it. I think they were, as they went down and it wasn't complete, they still wanted to catch some water in these little basins while they were working on it. They're interconnected so that water can flow from one to the other or out to other areas. Pretty complex. And that's right in the middle of all this field area that's being constructed. You can see right below the tank at the bottom, there's some more of those basins dug out. Those fields start. Another area just has lots of these little reservoirs dug out. It's about 10 of them in this shot here. And if you zoom out, you can see the sort of darkish area coming down the ridge where all these fields were being expanded. And then there's some other square pattern fields out there that I don't know if they're prehistoric or not. I think they probably are. possible. They were just cleared that square and let all the weeds grow in the summer. You can get quite a crop of amaranth and gourds and other plants if you just disturb the soil. And there's the topo map showing how that line of cleared area comes down into what the sort of natural mesquite duneland green area. So there you have it, all this wave field all over the place in southern New Mexico. I believe that it's a series of basins step down the hill that ends up forming this kind of pattern. And there's the areas we looked at, 6 different areas real close here to Deming.